Hello and welcome to Instant Transmission, a podcast where we discuss everything Dragon Ball and the importance of D's and the intricate and foundational relationship it has with D's nuts. Tonight, we're continuing our coverage of Dragon Ball Daima as we give our thoughts on episodes 15 through 17 in this series. Our animation budget was cut, so tonight's episode, all future episodes, and all previous episodes of the podcast will be audio only. I'm your host, Dayton, and once again, I'm joined by my co-host, Todd.
Hi.
And tonight's coverage picks up after our heroes acquired 2 of the 3 Dragon Balls, then entered a tunnel connecting Demon World 2 to Demon World 3 thanks to the help of Neva, who opened things up for them. Dr. Arinso is patiently waiting to unveil her plan, and Gomah is panicking as the heroes who defeated Buu are about to land on his doorstep. So with all that covered, was there anything you wanted to add before we got things started, Todd?
One thing I did want to mention is that we are tonight we're changing it up a little bit in that we're covering 3 more episodes, and our next recording will cover the next 3 and the last 3 episodes of Daima. So stay tuned for our next episode and the finale of Dragon Ball Daima.
And just to clarify, it is confirmed that there are only 3 episodes after these 3, right?
I think it's been confirmed by multiple sources now. So episode 20 for Daima is supposed to be the very last episode. I also, unrelated to that, just want to throw out there, it is also confirmed that we're getting a new Dragon Ball Super manga chapter at the end of February. So lots of stuff to be excited about for Dragon Ball.
Oh, wow. That's a lot of Dragon Ball content. Hell yeah. Let's keep it rolling.
Yeah, most definitely. But yeah, I think other than that, we can kind of jump right into our content for these episodes.
Which is episode 15, titled Third Eye. And Daima episode 15 begins with Gomah ordering a full-on assault by the demon police on our heroes. We see Goku getting shot and actually hurt by one of these lasers for some reason. And so he begins slapping planes around with his power pole. Vegeta also steps in and begins throwing some ki blasts around before he gets zapped out of the sky. Vegeta then eats one of the revive bugs, and then they start talking about how tough it is to fight in these kid bodies, which feels really freaking weird.
It doesn't make any sense, right? Given the fact that we've seen them fight the Tamagamis and go Super Saiyan, Super Saiyan 2, and Super Saiyan 3 in Vegeta. And I mean, it feels like they're almost on par with their adult bodies, if not, maybe a tiny bit weaker, but it's hard to even gauge. So this fight just really doesn't make a lot of sense to me, let alone the fact that let's say Goku and Vegeta are like the 2 strongest people that we've seen on screen in Daima effectively. If these guns are powerful enough to take them out in a single shot, I feel like that just breaks any sort of power scaling in any way, shape, or form, regardless of power levels or whatever. It also means that, like, if these guys just decided to shoot Gomah, they could take Gomah out. They could potentially take out the Tamagamis or the Boos. Like, I have no idea what's going on.
Well, and, we've discussed earlier on previous episodes about how it seems like if your guard's down, you're able to hurt these powerful fighters with weapons or attacks that wouldn't normally be able to hurt them, but they're on guard, they're prepared. And on top of all of this, there's an episode early on, I think it's like episode 5 or something like that, where Goku's jumping around, whooping the crap out of a bunch of these police guys. And honestly, that episode's a blast. It's a lot of fun. You get beautiful animation. It looks fun. The screen is just filled with cool martial arts techniques and cops having their asses whooped. And for some reason, this is different. They try and take a serious note with this, and it feels very out of place considering Goku has only gotten stronger since episode 5, unlocked more of his power. And on top of that, Vegeta's there, Piccolo's there. The whole crew's there. There's no reason why this should be as much of a fight as it is, but I don't know. I guess you got to have some drama.
That's the thing, is I just don't buy the tension here, which is unfortunate. Because, exactly like you said, in episode, I think it's 4 or 5, where Goku takes on an entire gaggle of the gendarmerie force, and no problems whatsoever. Of course, this group is bigger, but like you said, we've got Vegeta, we've got Piccolo, we've got Glorio, we've got Shin. Like, it's just very strange. I mean, they do have, like, non-fighters with them, like Balma and Hybis. So I mean, I wish they would have maybe made the tension that, oh, we need to protect like Balma and Hybis and Pansy. Like they're not fighters. They're gonna get hurt if we don't do something to protect them. But I feel like one Kamehameha would take out this entire group.
Yeah, and just give you some fan service of that same attention that was given to Goku earlier. Let Vegeta go out there and start whooping some ass and having fun. Same thing with Piccolo and maybe even Supreme Kai getting his hands dirty a little bit. Like this could have been a lot of fun, and instead we get this weird forced tension. I mean, it doesn't break the universe or anything, but it just feels a little out of place with the tension.
I think the other part that makes it a little bit weird though is that they just win the fight. Like it doesn't.
That's true. There's no like secret weapon or anything that really happens. They just kind of win.
Yeah, they basically the show tries to tell us that, oh, our heroes are in a lot of trouble, and then they don't really do anything special to win. They just start blasting them back with like normal ki blasts. They don't go Super Saiyan, don't do anything big. It just feels strange.
But I'll go ahead and move on from it because it's kind of a footnote, really.
Yeah.
But Gomah's watching all this through his magic TV camera box. I don't even know what this thing is. And he notices that there's a eyeball belt on Hybis that is actually the legendary evil third eye, which I like this little detail. It's super fun because we're introduced to Hybis and that belt very early on in this show.
I like this a lot. I was kicking myself for the fact that neither one of us like really pieced that together early on. Like now thinking on it, I'm like, oh yeah, there's an eye in his belt. They've been talking about the third eye. Like it's so obvious, but I like that they didn't like, it doesn't feel like that information was necessarily spoon fed to us. It's a fun little twist.
And the thing is every time you see Hybis, he's kind of over the top where he's talking about his hair or he wants to go to the parlor or, his personality. So I don't know, like out of place compared to the rest of the party. And all of your attention's drawn away from this belt that he brought up once forever ago. So why would you even think about it? You would just think it's a part of his over the top personality. I think it's actually very clever writing.
I like it. I totally agree with you. It's really well done. I like Hybis a lot. And I almost
is
feel
my
like
favorite character, by the way, in this show. He's my favorite character.
I think he's probably mine too, to be honest. And even like I think the oddities that you mentioned about him probably draw your attention away from the fact that he's got this eyeball on his belt in a weird way. But this is, well, we're gonna find out this is gonna come into play here.
Especially because he gives Degasu the order to go and retrieve the belt for him.
Yeah, there's some interesting details about that coming up too. We kind of get a cutaway, like a narrative flashback almost, as we learn about the third eye and how it got lost, which I actually really like the story here of Dabura stealing the third eye from his father, Abura, and then the eye basically gets lost. He gives it to he has a minion steal it from a vault, which I have questions about why the eye is in a vault in the first place, but those won't be
Why
answered.
would you ever take it off?
That's what I mean. Like, I feel like maybe there is something
to be a reason,
Right. Maybe there is something that could be like, it will corrupt you, or it's too much to handle having it in all the time. But we don't get an explanation for that, unfortunately. We do, however, find that it gets stolen by one of Dabura's minions, and then that minion gets killed in the third demon world, which is where Hybis found the third eye.
Yeah, and so it's basically just lost in the mountain, and that lines up with where Hybis said he found it. He said he just found it when he was off looking or walking through the mountains one day. And so he just happened to come across it and didn't think anything about it. It's fun. It's also very Hybis, where she's like, oh, this is a weird belt. I'll wear this.
Yeah. I think he just like sticks the eye in his belt even, and just like, I don't know, weird accessory.
That's right. Yep. Yeah. And So we get the backstory, and we go from there to the outside of Gomah's palace, and our heroes show up, and they're immediately beset by just a swarm of police, and they're pushed back, they're pressured down, and Hibis gets separated from the rest of the crew while they're kind of hunkered down, and he's approached by this lady who offers him a kiss for his belt. And Hibis refuses, I think even commenting something along the lines of how ridiculous that is, or he's not interested in that. But he would trade the belt for her neat giant hat. And so a deal is made.
She's got this, it almost looks like half of a beehive almost. And it's like yellow and kind of rubbery and bouncy. And I mean, again, I love Hibis. Like, his interactions here are funny. Like, the woman offering a kiss for the belt feels like a Bulma gag from like original Dragon Ball. But Hibis just shutting it down is like a great little goofy twist, and then taking the hat for the belt instead. I love this.
Especially because I'll point out something later that just feeds in so well. But yeah, the belt and the evil third eye are traded off to some mysterious lady who swindled our one of our members of our crew. But after this, our heroes finally jump into action, and we see them knocking out some demon police, and then these electric shock tanks show up and cause some trouble for our heroes. But it's a good thing King Kadan is here, because he showed up on his air blimp and is dropping dynamite on them. But the ship, like, this is all happening very quickly. The ship then blows up, but turns out they're all okay, and they just kick the police's butts. And yeah, it's a battle. It's one of the battles of the ages.
Yeah, there are a few like okay action sequences in here as far as like the fight choreography and animation. I still don't really buy the tension here because our heroes aren't going Super Saiyan or anything. I also like I this whole idea of the king, Pansy's father from the third demon world, coming up and like saving our heroes. We don't get enough time with those characters to really be like it doesn't feel like they formed a bond with like Goku or anybody, other than the fact that Pansy's with the group and she's of course the king's daughter. So them coming in for the save doesn't feel like, I'm not excited really, or like, yeah, cool, like they made these friends and now they came to save them. Like, it just doesn't feel earned, I guess. It's a little weird.
And remember too that our only real experience with them is Goku whooping all their asses when he turned just Super Saiyan 1. So we know that these aren't very strong people. They are just there to add to the party, I guess. I mean, the one thing I will say is that if they're trying to go for that feeling of this is the demon worlds pushing back against Gomah's tyranny, it does help with that. I think there are some world building aspects that I do like. Just as far as visually what's happening on the screen. I get that the reality is that they probably don't actually add too much, but it is kind of cool seeing the demon world push back against their supreme overlord. So I at least kind of dig that vibe.
That's a really good point. The other thing that I will say about them is that I actually like I kind of wanted to see more of them fighting, to be honest. Like I actually really like their character designs, like the I think it's the woman with like the big red hair and the sword and the armor. I was like, this chick's cool. She looks awesome. I want to see her whoop some ass. So it's fun to see them fight. It just feels, I don't know, a little out of place, I guess.
Don't worry, this will happen again very, very soon.
One other thing I wanted to say too is that the moment that they show up, they're in like this plane, and the plane gets blown up, I think, by the tank. And it's funny because you almost have this moment of like, these guys are here to save the day, and now they're dead. And then of course the very next moment they show up on the ground, they're all perfectly fine. I'll be honest, when I saw them blow up the plane, I was like, man, if this show kills off that entire group of characters, mad respect to this show.
Okay. All right. You did not go the direction I went. I didn't say anything, but I actually laughed when the plane blew up. Just all of them posing on the plane, just like acting victoriously, and then it explodes. I don't know why. I thought it was hilarious, but I know they were trying to like pull my emotional like heartstrings with Pansy and stuff, but I don't know. I don't really know her dad. I actually don't even really know her that well, so it didn't work with me. I was too busy laughing.
Yeah, I mean that's fair. I just would have been like, I would have been impressed if they would have just killed those characters and also had that full like turn of like, these guys are here to save the day. Now they're dead. I would have been like, wow.
I mean, if her dad really did turn out to die, I probably would have changed my my emotional attitude around pretty quick. But like the fact that what is it the weight of them possibly dying was only for about 5 seconds. So it didn't give me any time to really invest my emotions at that point. So it's like, oh, are they? Oh no, they're not.
Yeah,
It's
that's totally.
I don't
fair.
know. I get it. It's a fun show though, so they wouldn't want to do that with something like the tone of Daima.
Yeah, I totally agree. But this kind of turns into, I mean, funny enough, at that point, I think Goku goes Super Saiyan, just starts like blasting and beating the snot out of the other gendarmerie.
I mean,
I think
really, you could probably just skip to that part where you go Super Saiyan and ends the fight.
that's one of the problems I have with this as far as the tension goes. It just doesn't make a lot of sense. But
Whatever. I think that pretty much ends the episode, unless was there anything we needed to add? I think that wraps it up.
nope, I think you're right.
All right, that leads us into episode 16, which is titled Degasu. And our heroes regroup after beating the crap out of the demon police. And they decide that their first priority is going to be saving Dende. And it's at this point where everyone's standing around and regrouping that nobody comments on Hyvis's red, new, giant yellow hat. And he's just back there like wiggling it around. It's cracking me the hell up.
I didn't even really notice that they just like ignore it. I mean, I guess they're just kind of like getting used to Hybis's strange behavior at this point.
Yeah, and I'm sure they've got their priorities vested somewhere else. Like, why would I care about his weird hat when we're trying to save baby Dende?
Yeah. Speaking of Baby Dende, we kind of cut to our title character for the episode in Degasu as it's just a brief moment of him like picking up Dende as a baby, but then we shift over to the castle again, and we get to see, I'm not gonna lie, the most worthless characters in this entire show.
You mean the Gadabari Special Forces being introduced, I think, in the exact same way they were introduced the first time. But they do their introductions. They go to, give their threats and talk about their victories and how strong they are. But Vegeta interrupts it immediately. And he just steps forward to start the fight, which thank you, Vegeta. I appreciate it.
That is my favorite part about this 5-minute sequence is that Vegeta's like, I don't give a shit. I'm whooping those asses.
So they're dismantled basically without Vegeta breaking a sweat. They're all beaten. So this doesn't feel like there's a loose end that's going to come back later. I think this is that full story arc wrapped up at this point, unless they come back as good guys later. But I think they're beaten. I think they're done and out.
Yeah, I mean, just a few things about it is that they really don't even seem like all that bad. Like they give Goku some chips afterwards. Like, I don't know. I don't even think it's a worthwhile gag. I think we get more out of the show if these guys are not even present.
Or this is like, if this part is the entirety of what we get out of the special forces, sure, whatever. Like we now understand that even the best of the best in the military, and they would have special forces in the demon police or the gendarmerie. So it makes sense that they would show up and get dismantled, but
Right.
whatever. At least the scene's brief. Goku gets chips, which is great because he's like walking around afterwards, just like munching on chips, which is kind of funny.
I do actually like that part. But they kind of start to split up in the castle. They're basically trying to figure out where Dende is. They also have to find and fight the other Tamagami so they can get the third Dragon Ball and wish themselves back to being adults. And this is kind of a fun scene in the castle where, well, first off, they split off in a weird pairing in my mind where basically all of the strong guys go in one group and all of the weak people go in another group.
Well, I thought the other group was just leaving. I didn't really understand. Like, I thought it was, we're going to run ahead and take care of it, and the rest of you guys just go, like, I don't know, hang out or whatever, get some Gatorades and waters for the rest of the important people.
I guess, but they also have the Dragon Balls, so they can't go too far.
That's true. Yeah, and I'll let you know right now, they basically run through the castle and sense Dende's energy and confront Degasu. I want to say that I was disappointed because we have so many cool going into the castles, like we're going into the beast den sort of situations in Dragon Ball, and we get absolutely none of that, especially because of the way they split off the groups and they make such a big deal of getting into the gates and the size of the castle. And then it's kind of a big nothing burger for me. Like, this felt like a really cool spot to throw in some narrative, maybe some fan service with some throwbacks to like Pilaf's castle or Pilaf's flying fort. Like, there's a whole bunch of different. The Red Ribbon Army, I think, too, had like a deep complex with like underground paths and stuff like that. There's so many adventures that the Dragon Ball crew's been on, especially in original Dragon Ball, where they delve deep into the enemy layer and encounter a bunch of traps and puzzles and all sorts of cool stuff. But we don't get any of that here, really.
That's a really good point. I didn't even think on that.
The Pirate Cave too. That was a cool one. But sorry, I'm continuing.
No, I totally agree with you now that you brought that up. I was a little bit more. I guess I was a little bit more focused on the next ball that gets dropped here, which is Degasu.
Yeah. Okay. So I guess we can just blow through this quickly because Degasu basically has Dende at gunpoint and reveals that his plans is to usurp Gomah and become Demon King himself, since Glins are like meant to lead or rule or something like that. And then Glorio takes Hybis's hat and throws it at him from like the side, from the shadows, and knocks his gun out. And then Degasu's knocked out after that, and that's the whole thing. So we got Dende back, and Degasu's story is over.
So, first of all, this plot line with Degasu never seeded earlier in the show. Never foreshadowed, nothing like that. As far as him wanting to betray Gomah and become the demon lord himself. So that to me is dropping the ball. Like, it's just a weird, you're kind of like, let's add to the fact that Degasu has also just sent somebody to get the third eye. And you would kind of assume that, like, you know, Gomah told him to get the third eye, but if Degasu wants to overthrow Gomah, wouldn't Degasu wait around to get the third eye for himself then? And he's just got Dende and he's ready to like peace out of here. It all just feels so weird.
Yeah, if I don't mind a situation where they get Dende back, but Degasu makes it out, because part of me at this point would have liked, or would have been a cool twist, is that Dr. Arinsu was actually working for Degasu this whole time, because he had hinted at wanting one of the wishes in like episode 1. So what if at the end he uses Dr. Arinsu to get the Dragon Balls and actually get his wish and, I don't know, get into that position of power? But at the same time, he still would have needed some clue that he was evil or going for that throne. I don't know. Part of me wonders if maybe I just overthought some of this, and the story I built up in my head was actually just, I don't know, not what was happening at all.
I mean, maybe it's some of it just feels like just not great storytelling at times. Like, Degasu's turn just feels strange, and it's only like, I don't know, maybe a couple of minutes of screen time where he's like, haha, I wanted to be the demon lord all along, and then he just gets knocked out, and it's like, oh, wait, what?
Yeah,
it's
or it's thread. Just all of his evil showed up in one moment, like the very final 11th hour moment, and then that's when he gets knocked out. Yeah, his character feels not so greatly handled.
totally
And that's all I've
underbaked.
got to say, because they get Dende and Dekasu's beaten and they get out of there. There's no real story for him. And even most of the other screen time we get, he's just kind of, ordered around and shouted at and just kind of subservient to Gomah. So I like the position of his character. It's also interesting that he's, the same race as Supreme Kai and could have those ties, but I feel like you have a lot of fibers that don't connect very well with that character. He just kind of feels left on the back burner.
I wish so. To your point, where they basically expressed that Glind, there's something about Glind that they want to like excel and be in a position of power. I wish we would have gotten that detail earlier, because they kind of give us that information like after Degasu is saying like, I want to be the Supreme Demon King. It's like, if you guys would have told us even just that little detail in episode 8, that would have, even for me, that would have been just enough to kind of seed like, okay, what's so Degasu's a Glind. What's Degasu's aspirations here then?
So I'm not going to get off on this tangent, but you just described probably one of my biggest issues with My Hero Academia.
That'll be for another podcast.
But yeah, it would have been nice to get those breadcrumbs a little bit earlier, or at all. But yeah, I mean, there's still a few episodes left. Maybe he still has a role left to play. I haven't seen any further ahead, so I have no idea. But yeah, I feel like that was a character who, at this point, feels like an underutilized piece to this Daima puzzle.
Yeah, I think he kind of gets walked off by our side cast. He's basically like in handcuffs or whatever. Gomah kind of watches this happen, so Gomah knows that Degasu was trying to betray him, but Gomah also now, because Degasu is not around, Gomah is in the position to receive the evil third eye from presumably the girl who was hired by Degasu.
Yeah. And I mean, all she wants is a lot of money, and she gets it. And yeah, while this is happening, we see our heroes regrouping once more after defeating Degasu in an epic battle. And they head over to the courtyard where the first Demon World's Tamagami stands. And not only do they find out that the Dragon Ball for this Tamagami is missing, but Dr. Arinsu also shows up here at this time. And she reveals that she's the one that's claimed this Dragon Ball. And yeah, we've got some drama now.
So I love Dr. Arinsu. This is super interesting. It does kind of cut from there now to Gomah once more with the belt with the evil third eye, and we get a whole gag of him just trying to get the eyeball out of the belt with a spoon and finally a plunger. He does manage to get the eye out, and then he tells the same girl who retrieved the eye, who is now loading herself up with gold, he tells the girl to put the eye into his forehead, which is, it's kind of a funny, goofy gag, but also I'm kind of like, can he not just put it in his forehead himself? Like, what is happening?
Well, hold on. Maybe his arms are too short. Let me look up his character model real quick and just do a quick eyeball measurement, because he might not have long enough arms to. Oh, if he put his head down, he could probably do it. But he's got short little arms there. He might actually need her to assist with that.
That's true. He does have tiny little T-Rex arms, but he is shown, like, when he's showing it to her, he's shown holding it up over his head.
Oh, well, there goes my theory. Yeah. I don't know. I have no. Maybe he wanted the ceremony or something. He wanted the ego.
Maybe. It is kind of a funny sequence when she goes to put it in, because she's like, ugh, I'm not touching that eyeball. And then she has to, like, continue to kind of shove it into his noggin because it won't stay in place for.
It's like when the cassette player won't take the tape and you just have to keep pushing it in. We might be dating ourselves.
It's a great description. But I mean, I think you and I, Dayton, had some thoughts about like what they were going to do if they eventually got to the third eye, and this is it. Goma it gets the third eye, and he starts to transform. You see his horns kind of shift and change and grow, and his body starts to shift and expand. So this feels like we're getting to the big bad of the show.
Yeah, I have a lot of thoughts about this. One is I think the keeping the evil eye in plain view this whole time was genius. We already kind of talked about that earlier. But I love that it's literally an eyeball that's been just traveling around with our heroes this whole time. Great storytelling. As far as Goma being the main villain, assuming that he's definitely the main villain from here on out, it's I don't know. It's weird. I don't know how I feel about him being the main villain because he's kind of been on the sideline the entire time. And honestly, it kind of seems like Dr. Arinsu and maybe at the last second Degasu were actually more threatening villains. So if Goma does turn out to be the main villain, to me it feels I don't know, maybe a little disappointing because I wanted Dr. Arinsu to make that big play, but I mean, there's still time for that to happen.
And that's a good point because I feel exactly the same way you do, where this to me feels like the most straightforward cookie cutter option for the story, the narrative to go. Like they basically said, here's Goma, he's the bad guy. And they introduced multiple other bad guys. Like we've got Glorio, who, is working for Dr. Rinsu. We've got Dr. Rinsu who kind of like put everything into motion effectively. And now we've got Goma actually getting the third eye and becoming this big powerhouse that we're going to kind of see in the next episode. I don't know. I don't love it. But maybe they still have Dr. Rinsu around. So maybe it'll turn out into something where Goma gets defeated or Dr. Rinsu does something to get the upper hand on our heroes thanks to Goma, which I would like that.
It kind of feels like you almost want Dr. Arinso to be rewarded with being the main villain with all the I mean, she's done all the scheming, all the background work. She's got spies and thievery and minions. She's got all this stuff. She's a very active villain. Whereas Goma's kind of just been sitting on his thumbs the whole time, watching. He's been, and in all honesty, he's almost kind of been like a useful idiot to Dr. Arinsu by keeping our heroes distracted and out of the way while she can kind of move in the shadows. So I'm really hoping we get more for her because she's kind of proven herself to be a competent villain, whereas Goma kind of appears as an incompetent villain at this point. And that could be intentional. That it could be something where Dr. Rinsu plays off of that later. So maybe these are just more seeds planted. But just from the cursory, like, if I have to take everything as it is now with no tricks or changes or anything, and Goma is the main villain, it feels very meh to me.
I agree. As we're talking about this, I just thought about the fact that Arinsu basically planted the seed in Goma's head about the Earthlings, like Goku and the others, being a problem and coming to the demon realm. And so that's what caused Goma to go to Earth and to wish on the Earth's Dragon Balls to turn them into children. The funny thing is, as much as I like Arinsu, she kind of has screwed herself over at this point. Because if you think about if she never made that action to push Goma to go to Earth, she could have just gone to the witch Marba, had Ku and Do made, and then gone and got the Dragon Balls herself, rather than have like Goku and the others get the Dragon Balls. Because I mean, if Ku could already beat the number 1 Tamagami, surely he could beat number 2 and 3. I just realized how kind of funny that is.
Yeah, and I don't know. I'd have to really work through that because I think you have a really good point. There's also some like butterfly effect situations that happen where I'm trying to read into it and be like, well, does she go for the Dragon Balls even without knowing that the Earthlings were going for the Dragon Balls, right? Because I believe they defeated one. She was like, oh, well, I guess that's a possibility. So I'm gonna try and defeat the Tamagami now. Um, it's interesting because it almost seems like bringing the Earthlings there was her plan with what she was doing with Glorio. But I don't know. I have a lot of questions that I would need to go back and kind of inspect more closely. Because man, it's been a minute since I've seen episode 1 and 2 of Daima.
Yeah, that's totally fair. I don't know. It was just not that really matters that much at this point. It was just kind of a funny thought as we were breaking it down. I think the important part is going to be, what does Arinsu want the Dragon Balls for specifically? So I guess we're going to find a few more details out in the next episode as we keep moving forward here.
Which is episode 17, titled Gomah. And Goku and company, they exchange their introductions with Dr. Arinsu. Supreme Kai actually tries bargaining with Dr. Arinsu for their Dragon Ball, but she of course declines, and she expresses her aspirations for power. She then offers them a deal that each side sends one of their representatives to fight, and the winner gets all three. And despite Vegeta's protests, Goku steps forward as our hero's representative.
What did you think about this? Specifically, Arinsu showing up here with a Dragon Ball and then offering a one-on-one fight.
Well, I mean, we even get some shots of Glorio being like, what the hell is she doing? Because she has an agent, like a sleeper agent, right there in the group with them. I mean, do we know, is she aware that Gomah's receiving the third? No, she's not.
No.
So I don't know why she's making a play right now when she already has an insider. So it doesn't make sense to me that she would do anything here. Maybe she's just overconfident with the power of Ku. I don't know. It's very bizarre. This feels like a weird time for her to try and make that play when she hasn't even used her sleeper play yet.
Yeah, I totally agree. Especially, it also feels weird to me that she's like, let's do a one-on-one honor duel, when she's like, she's doing all this shady stuff in the background. It's like, you feel like she would like sneak attack them with Ku and Do or something. It just feels very strange.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess the idea is that she knows she can't beat all of them. So she decides to show herself and offer this kind of raw deal, basically. Because she's confident that her one fighter could be any one of their fighters. But like I said, I don't know why you would do that when you've technically have 2 Dragon Balls right now because Glorio's walking around with one of them.
Yeah. It's, I don't know. Maybe we'll see. Maybe she'll have something else planned as we move forward. But the other thing that was a little bit odd to me, well, she basically expresses her plan here now, as I'm going to try to say his real name, Nahare Shin.
I will never call him that.
He kind of steps forward to speak with Arinsu because they are, all the Glind are related, or at least if they're from the same tree, I think. So they're technically brother and sister. And he's like, hey, we need the Dragon Ball. And Arinsu's like, I have my own desires for the Dragon Ball. And she expresses, I think Shin basically says, yeah, you want to be the Supreme Demon King, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, don't compare me to Degasu. I want a demon realm that is more powerful and more terrifying and is going to be a problem for all the outside worlds.
Yeah. When I heard this, I kind of felt like it was kind of a forced other side of Supreme Kai's coin, where Supreme Kai is in charge of ensuring peace throughout the universe. She's being the opposite of that and ensuring chaos throughout the universe, sort of thing. I don't understand why. I wish she would have elaborated a little bit more on why she wanted to basically cause chaos throughout the universe and cause the demon realm to become a problem. But I mean, I don't know. Maybe I guess it's neat.
It's a little like, I think I'm torn on it because I agree with you in a way that, like, it feels like we're definitely forcing a delineation between Degasu and Rinsu's motivations here. Um, it's not my favorite motivation, but also we are in the demon realm where it's like, I mean, some of these guys could just be evil for evil's sake, I guess. And that's kind of what it feels like for Rinsu here. Like she's smart, but she's also just evil, I guess, and she just wants to cause trouble.
A Glenn, though, right? She's not necessarily like the other demons who might be more naturally evil. Or am I mistaken on that?
I don't know if there's. That's a good question. I don't know if the Glen have any sort of like specific behavior beyond what we've been told in them trying to like gain power. I guess if that's their sort of behavior, it kind of makes sense, I guess, that could easily turn them evil.
I guess I don't know. I wish we would have had more reasoning for why this specifically. I don't. It felt a little out of left field. It felt like, to me, it felt like evil for the sake of being evil. I don't know how else to describe it.
I mean, I don't disagree with you. I admittedly, because I really like Rinsu, I wanted something more from her. Like I wanted something more from her motivations. It's fine, I guess.
It just stinks because I feel like she was probably the best written character in Daima up till this, and probably still the best written character. When you write a character so well with so many things going on, and and she's so interesting, you kind of hope that the primary fire in her belly would be something a little bit better, or a little bit more understandable, or a little bit more fleshed out. I did feel like I wanted more for such a well written character.
I totally agree. Yeah. I still like you said, I still think she's probably the best written character, except for maybe Hibis. But
Hibis is the best character.
Yeah,
but she's the best written character.
That's a good way to delineate them. But we basically get her whole gambit here moving forward, and she sends I get them mixed up. I think it's Ku is the.
I think it is Ku. And
yeah.
I'm gonna let you know right now. I was getting hype because I wanted to see. I thought this was going to be a mega battle, and turns out what this is a very poorly animated battle with a lot of repeating frames and choppy animation. This is the first time I think Daima looked bad. This was not fun to watch. Like I did some frame by frames to see how far arms were moving between like animation poses. It was pretty significant. I mean, for a show that's looked so fantastic, this is probably the low point in animation.
I 100% agree with you. I'm glad that you said the same thing, because I basically had in my notes, this is the worst fight animation in Daima, full stop. Like,
and I mean, they did like all the tricks to try and make it more economic. Like you have like punches that just kind of come on screen and then come off screen from like quote unquote their view, but you get like the same like 3 block frames over and over again, and you're just like, okay, there's nothing happening here. I really don't have anything to say about this fight other than it looks bad. And the best part of it for me was when Ku grabs Goku with his antenna and starts bashing him into the ground. I actually thought that was fun.
Like they try to add in some like, you know, quirky boo stuff effectively, like the stretchy arms, but the stretchy arms, like the attacks don't look good. It doesn't look like they're even punching. I think the arm goes underneath the ground, which is kind of like a callback to like evil Kid Boo's feet like kicking down into the ground. But it just doesn't sell it for me as far as the animation and the action. I think probably the best one for me is once Goku goes Super Saiyan, the animation picks up a little bit from there. Goku like delivers a good punch to Ku's face, and you kind of see like the fist like distorting Ku's jaw, and then we get a shot of like them flying through the air and exchanging ki blasts and stuff.
I thought that part looked actually pretty good, where we see Ku actually like stretching and like disforming his body to move around the ki blast while the camera's kind of panning. Is actually a decent shot.
Yeah, it's pretty short and pretty quick though, unfortunately. And we kind of turn to as Ku is about ready to like their Goku and Ku have are locked in their hands together, and Ku's I think for like the third or fourth time going to use a mouth blast while the person is occupied, and this turns into them getting separated by another key blast from we all can guess our big boy Gomah.
Yeah, so big roided up Goma arrives in scene with his big muscular body and his exactly the same looking head that's just scaled up a little bit. Actually a lot of it. Uh but I do have a note here that says, "Oh, so this is why they were saving the animation budget."
This is about the halfway point of this episode, right? And from this point on, the animation from here looks pretty damn good.
It kicks up noticeably.
Yeah. Yeah. I did send you, Dayton, those pictures of Goma's character design. So some people had, before this episode came out, some people had drawn like fan art of what Gomah could look like with the evil third eye. And there's some pretty cool images out there that people made for the fan art where I would almost describe it as Gomah almost looks like a cross between Gomah's like goofy clown character design with Dabura, which I actually think looks really cool.
So I actually like both. And the reason why I like both is that if you're going with a little bit more of a serious note, like if the tone gets more serious, I think going with the ones that you had sent me where like his body looks more sleek and toned and more like the Dragon Ball Z that we've grown to love. Whereas the form we get in Daima, it's almost kind of comical. It's like his big goofy head on this big muscle body. And if we're going for just we're here having fun and we're having fun in Daima Land, I'm actually okay with it. It doesn't bother me at all. But once again, I don't ever know what tone they're going for in this. I thought I had figured it out, but then I don't know. They change it. If we're just having fun, which I think we're trying to, I'm actually kind of okay with the form they chose.
I get what you mean, and I agree with you. The one thing that I will say to that, though, the reason I actually like those more like, I don't know, like buff and serious looking versions is because I think it's even like we see Gomah here and we're immediately like, oh, he looks goofy. Like this is still like the same goofy, silly character that we've been dealing with. I like the idea of the rug pull. If they had instead given us this like foreboding, dark, serious looking Gomah, and then he still has like the goofy, silly attitude, I think that's way funnier to me and shifts the tone much better than just giving us this goofy looking guy.
And maybe there's still a rug pull to be had. Maybe this evil eye comes with some consequences we're not yet aware of, or maybe some mind controllers. I don't know. Uh, if Gosh, there's a lot that's going to happen over the next few episodes, and my mind's open. There's a lot of things that could happen. If this is the form of the final boss, I can be okay with that. But at the same time, if they would have gone with something that was closer to what the fans had come up with, I also would have been okay with that. I actually like them both, but for different reasons.
Yeah, I agree. I'm not upset about the way that he looks. But we kind of see as he moves into, well, the action of this sequence, he's basically like comes out here flaunting his new big buff body and his evil third eye, and he quickly starts putting a hurting on our heroes. I think it's Vegeta that goes in to attack him first and basically gets swatted away like a fly.
Yeah, and he like swats Vegeta away, and then he also starts like taking rocks and smashing them together. And it takes me a minute, but I think he's making like an arena, but he doesn't say anything, so I just have to assume that's what he's building.
Yeah, I mean, there's I guess what goes along with his kind of like, well, his very goofy looking form. He starts to chase Vegeta across his own palace, and he's like punching and missing Vegeta and destroying parts of his palace. And then Vegeta starts like blowing things up with ki blasts and stuff. And Goma's like, no, go to the arena I made. Stop it.
Yeah. And I mean, he starts building this arena while they're fighting, and Vegeta is like pushed back, and he's immediately on his heels. And we get the shot, and they do great work creating this sense of motion as Vegeta's fighting Gomah, but he's retreating back, and the animation shows them like panning across the spirals of the palace and stuff like that as Vegeta's basically being overwhelmed. We see Vegeta even pop up into Super Saiyan 1 Gold form, and once again, he's easily knocked back. And it's at this point, all of our heroes decide to jump into the action and begin combining their efforts. Which, by the way, I don't like this.
Same.
Okay. I was like, this might be controversial, but we have spent so many episodes of Dragon Ball Z and now so many episodes of Daima with Goku and Vegeta basically like drawing straws to get their fight. And at this point, I don't feel like they've properly established that Gomah is an all hands on deck sort of situation.
Yeah.
Vegeta hasn't gone to Super Saiyan 2 or 3 yet. Actually, maybe 2. I can never tell. But he hasn't gone to Super Saiyan 3 yet. There's been no talk between anybody about what they need to do. And how many times have we had episodes of Dragon Ball where they're willing to risk everybody's lives, the entire planet and everything on death matches?
Yeah.
Why did they all? It feels so out of place for Dragon Ball for me, especially since they've even continued that trope 100 times earlier. Well, not 100 times, but a few times earlier in Daima.
I 100% agree with you. And if you didn't bring it up, I was going to, because specifically, it feels out of character because Goku is the one who says, hey, let's all go get him. It's like, are you fucking kidding me? The number of times that Goku's like, no, I want to try this. I want to fight him myself. Like, I got this. Don't worry. Even when he's way outclassed and outmatched. Like, let's take Frieza on Namek, for instance, where Goku was telling multiple people in Piccolo, Krillin, Gohan, like, you guys stay there. You're going to be one. I think he says something about if you get involved, you're going to be in my way. And then 2, he says later on, he's like, go, you're in danger.
Yeah, and on top of that, Goku has this not weird, I would say, but he has like this relationship with Vegeta where he understands him on that Saiyan pride level. And so even if everybody else tried jumping in, I feel like Goku would stop them because it would interfere with Vegeta's pride. And so he would wait until the last possible moment before he did anything. So it felt very bizarre to me that they all just jumped in like that. And like you said, it was his suggestion. That's something that I didn't even catch on to. So I don't know. I have a lot of feelings about this. They didn't properly establish that this needed to be an all hands on deck situation. And they actually spent time earlier in the same series to establish that they want the one-on-one fight with the powerful opponent.
Yeah. They've been doing that the entire series. So it's, they tried to explain it away. Like Neva makes a comment saying, that Goku or they all understand just how outclassed they are, and that's why they're all going to fight. And it's like, well, guys, we since Super Saiyan Goku versus Frieza, group fights, like weaker fighters, have not been helpful to a fight, period. Like they like if Goku and Vegeta in their most powerful forms can't do anything against Gomah, Piccolo's not going to be able to. Supreme Kai is not going to be able to. Glorio certainly is not going to be able to. Like it's just weird.
I mean, the closest you could get to them actually helping is say something like with Cell, where they drew enough of Cell's attention for Gohan to jump on Cell, pulling back for a moment, right?
Right.
But that was looking for that moment of weakness. That wasn't just, let's swarm in like that. Which, mind you, I will say that some of this stuff is very well animated, so it's fun. I don't actually have a problem with the action sequence that's shown to us, but
Same.
I do have a problem with the motivations that were in play for everyone going in the way they did.
Yeah, yeah, I totally agree. I I could rant about this for a while, but I don't want to
Yeah.
beat this dead horse further. But because really, like you said, the action that we get is fun, and I think they kind of give us something out of character here, and really out of the theming of the show, just to give us fun action. And I guess I'm okay with that part anyway.
If ever there was a series for me to be a little lighter on something like that, it would be Daima. It's I think supposed to be a little bit more tongue in cheek at the end of the day, so I'll forgive some of this, but it still does feel out of place. And then
I Yeah.
on top of our heroes going in, we see Ku and Du are sent in by Dr. Rinsu to help out, which is fine. It's cool. It's whatever. Um, I mean, she's not risking herself, so why does she care if they go in or not? And then Neva even orders the Tamagami to kind of pitch in, which I do actually like that. That makes sense to me.
I like that too. I like that Neva also, like, he's just kind of like winking at the Tamagami, like, you want to help? That's it's fun. The one thing that's weird to me here though is we've established that Arinsu is effectively evil for evil's sake. She sends in Ku and Du to fight Gomah, which, okay, sure, I get it. If Gomah is the threat and the other people are not the threat, I don't have a problem with that. The thing that is strange here is that
You have the
Glorio,
perfect opportunity to get all 3 Dragon Balls right now.
that one, Glorio gives his Dragon Ball to Hybis. So Hybis, who, as far as we can tell, is not a powerful fighter, has 2 of the 3 Dragon Balls, and Arinsu has the 3rd. And it just feels like the moment where it's like, why is Arinsu not... I mean, she could send Du over there and fucking get the Dragon Balls and make her wish right now if she wanted to.
Yeah, is she an evil genius or is she not an evil genius? Or maybe this is something she'll pull the trigger on a little later. We just need some cool fighting or something. I don't know, but yeah, it does feel weird that she's not like she's a backstabbing behind the scenes like son of a gun. Why not lean into that a little bit and be like, you know what? You can go fight. Ku, stay here for a minute.
Exactly. And that's kind of the issue that I have with this. It just, I don't know. It feels weird. Arinsu's characterization feels weird to me. This episode
Something
in particular
changed between the first half of the show and the second half of this show with her.
Yeah, because I like her a lot, but this episode just throws her, like, I don't buy her characterization here. It's like, is she smart and an evil mastermind, like you said, Dayton, or is she gonna help the heroes? Like, I don't know.
The only thing I can think about is that with Gomah having the power of the evil third eye, even if she got her wish, he might be too powerful and he might be able to actually thwart it. So he might be a necessary evil that needs to be taken down with or without the Dragon Balls at this point.
That's a good point. And we don't, again, we still, well, we kind of at least have an idea at what Arinsu's wish is, which is, make a more powerful, terrifying demon realm or whatever. So I guess she would have to sacrifice the type of wish that she wants, because it seems like she wants to supplant Gomah as the Supreme Demon King, but she doesn't want to do that with the wish. She wants to use the wish for this other thing. So I guess that could be her logic in this moment.
Yeah, I don't know. This is one of those moments where, like, honestly, a line of dialogue could really put her character into perspective, but we don't really get that. Kundu are sent in, Tamagamis are sent in, and now everyone's attacking Giant Gomah. And all this stuff is animated really well, though. I'll give them credit on that. Ku using his stretchy arms to tie up the giant demon lord beast. Everyone else jumping in to land their attacks, but we see Gomah using the evil third eye, using like psychic powers basically to like throw rocks into people and deflect blasts. So they're really building him up as this kind of overwhelming force now.
Yeah. there's also a thing about we haven't seen Gomah fight or anything up to this point. We haven't seen anything as far as his powers beyond like being able to, I don't know, scry on people, I guess. Um, and the narrative, I think specifically Glorio, has continued to tell us Gomah should not be underestimated. He's very powerful. Um, I wish that they would have. I wish they would have shown us that. I wish they would have given us some sort of demonstration of how strong he was, so that we would have some idea of like, okay, he was at this level, maybe like half of a Tamagami or something, and then he got the eye, and it's like now he's way far above and beyond like a Goku and Vegeta and all of our main heroes. It's not even, I don't know if I would call that even a complaint. I just wish that we had more about Gomah in that way.
Yeah, I think I mentioned it earlier where he's kind of been a sideline character where it's the reason why him being the main villain feels weird is he's been just kind of sitting watching TV this whole time.
Yeah. Yeah, it is weird. But this fight is cool. I mean, getting to see there's like a really cool sequence, like you said, with the third eye is almost like these psychic powers, and Gomah is shooting all of these like rocks through the air at all of our heroes at this point, and we get to see all of them kind of like flying away, dodging them, blasting them with ki blasts. And
I like this a lot because all the different fighters have like a flair of their personality and how they navigate them, right? The most obvious ones being actually Ku and Do, where we see Do kind of like using like pinpoint blasting, and we see Ku just like smashing into him with his body as he's bouncing around. It's a fun scene. I think I actually have no problems with the way that this stuff is animated, the display of character through here. All this stuff is actually really fun if I kind of take I guess the story aspects and just put them on ice. Like, forget about it and just enjoy the visual splendor. If you do that, it's honestly a lot of fun.
Yes, I totally agree. And that's, I mean, in some ways, as we've been going through Daima, that's kind of just what I've been hoping for the tail end of this show. The last sequence of, like you're saying, where they have a lot of character in the way that they fight in this moment. I really like, there's a sequence where Goku is like dodging the rocks, and then there's almost like this big maw of rocks that like comes down in front of Goku, and he just pauses for just a brief second as the Tamagami comes through with his sword and just cuts clean through it. It's a really cool visual effect and just a really cool moment of like Goku and the Tamagami working together in this moment.
And swords are cool in Dragon Ball, so anytime you get one, it's kind of badass.
Swords are always cool.
And I mean, it's just like we get a cool view of the camera, almost like circling Gomah as he's like flying back and forth. And Daima does an incredible job of showing motion. Like the camera angles, I don't even know how they're capable of animating all these crazy angles, because the camera will be circling the battle as the battle's moving across the landscape. So it's like two levels of, I guess, perspective that you have to keep in mind while you're animating all of this. So it looks phenomenal. Gomah's just beating the snot out of our heroes, overcoming every attack. And I mean, as they're attacking Gomah, like I mentioned earlier, they all have their own flair on it. I'm not going to say what everyone's doing because there's so much happening on the screen at once.
It's a lot of action. It's just really cool to see Gomah like punch and kick our main guys, then get like attacked from behind and block it with a hand, and then like catch and return a couple of ki blasts. Like there's just a lot of really cool action in here. I think it kind of all culminates in them, like all of them trying to attack him at once with physical attacks, and then him knocking them away, but then all of them trying to attack Gomah with ki blasts all at one time, which again, really cool visuals as the camera like pans around to each of our hero characters charging up their ki blasts and then firing them off in one group attack.
So the ki blasts are all fired. It's like everyone's signature technique. I think we got Kamehameha. I'm assuming Vegeta's using Gallic Gun, whatever the fingers and the opposite palms. Yeah. And I mean, it's everyone's special attacks. I will say all the special attacks didn't feel super special because it was kind of like this group united thing. So
True.
it didn't look great in my opinion, but they were all being launched at the same time. So it might be screen overload if every one of them was given the justice it probably deserved. But Gomah basically surrounds himself in a purple shield that just stops everyone's attacks dead in their tracks. And then the shield explodes outwards, setting his dark, evil purple ki energy raining across the landscape, kind of KOing all the good guys at this point, or more or less KOing them. And we get a scene where Vegeta's like, Goku, do you have any of your revive bugs? And Goku's like, I dropped them earlier. Sorry, bro. And then Vegeta's like, I guess I'll pass out. So he's done.
Man. We skipped over it earlier in the gendarmerie fight, but the disrespect on Vegeta in this show just frustrates me because he earlier gets shot by one of the gendarmerie blasts and then asks Goku for a revive bug. This time he asks for a revive bug and then just passes out. And so he's basically out of the fight, which then turns to Goku basically getting like telekinetically grabbed by Gomah, and Gomah's charging this ki blast that he fires off at Goku. There's a cool save here from Ku and Tamagami number 1 as they like block the ki blast, and then Goku's like, well, guess I gotta use that one. And he transforms into Super Saiyan 3.
Oh boy. Okay, so there's a lot that we need to discuss at this point because this is basically the end of the episode. So we kind of have to discuss our thoughts on this pile of episodes, and we need to discuss Super Saiyan 3 because now we have Goku and Daima with his Super Saiyan 3, and we have that comparison for Vegeta's Super Saiyan 3 that we talked about a lot on one of the previous episodes when he did go up to SSJ 3.
Yes. Yeah. So, I mean, it's a cool reveal just for like the last tail end of the episode here is where Goku turns into Super Saiyan 3. So the transformation, and then he basically like no sells this ki blast that Gomah hits him with. And I think that is kind of like where they cut the curtain ending the episode. But I don't know, lots of feelings and thoughts about this where one, it's a bummer to me that Vegeta just gets knocked out, and we already know that he can go Super Saiyan 3, and yet he never goes Super Saiyan 3 during this fight. I've seen some people give excuses for him, basically saying that Vegeta realizes that it's not an efficient form. It's like, well, efficiency doesn't matter if your life is on the line.
Yeah, if you're kind of getting your ass kicked, unless there's like a stamina play or something like that, like he's trying to wear him out, which is obviously not happening.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't he turn on the 3? It just feels like a weird decision. It's also if he's gonna get knocked out, just have him get knocked out. Don't have him be like, Goku, I need a bug. Like him gasping, using his last gasp to ask Goku for help and then passing out feels really bizarre as well. I don't know. That whole thing's weird. I also think it's weird that Goku went Super Saiyan 3, so we know that the Super Saiyan 3 they gave Goku is much more in line with the traditional Super Saiyan 3 we've seen, with like the hair going down. Goku's got the one overbang. So Vegeta's Super Saiyan 3 is different than everyone else's Super Saiyan 3. It could be a stylistic thing, but it still feels weird that they decided to do that. Vegeta, man, we might just have to have an episode of how Vegeta's been handled in Daima because there's a lot to discuss with that character.
Yeah, I don't like the way that he's been handled as a Vegeta fanboy. But to clarify, part of what you were saying there is that we had thought or hypothesized that because Vegeta was in his mini form, that maybe his Super Saiyan 3 looked different in his like kid body, but we're seeing Goku in his mini form or his kid body look basically the same as his adult Super Saiyan 3 form, with the hair going down the back and everything. So it's the kid body is not an indication that they look different in their transformations. Which that just means that Vegeta's Super Saiyan 3 looks wildly different from both Goku and Gotenks, who are basically the two Saiyans that we've seen in Super Saiyan 3 in the canon universe. There's a lot of video games and then Super Dragon Ball Heroes, the promotional anime, where we've seen a bunch of people in Super Saiyan 3, including Vegeta, and they all had that same sort of look to them with the long hair going down all the way the back like Goku's. So I don't know. I'm really torn on it. Like I'm not a big fan of the look. It was kind of confusing when it happened to me anyway. I thought again, like it was maybe like a Super Saiyan 2.5, like he was almost there. I mean, I guess if they had more Super Saiyan 3s and they all looked distinct, I wouldn't really be all that bothered, but Goku and Gotenks look pretty similar.
Yeah, you only have 3 samples to really look at right now, as far as I'm concerned. And 2 of them look very similar, and then Vegeta's kind of the outlier, which, I mean, honestly, it could even be something where, because he worked on it and he developed it himself, he made it look this way or something. I don't it could be something he actively did because he doesn't want to follow the exact same steps as Goku, which, sure, whatever. As long as it doesn't need to be a good reason. Just give me a reason as to why it looks different, and I don't even question it. Especially because there's already kind of an issue with, I think, Super Saiyan 1, 2, and 3 looking kind of samey.
Yeah.
And all Vegeta's form does is eliminate one of those differences. Now it flows the same way as the other Super Saiyan form's hairs. There's just more of it.
Yeah. Yeah. Super Saiyan 3 was the one that you're like, oh, I can actually tell which one that is. But Vegeta's Super Saiyan 3, the hair is just bigger. Like it's it's not really that distinct. I don't know. I'm super torn on that. I would be, again, I think I would be more okay with it if they had basically given us an indication up to this point that if you had each Super Saiyan 3 looked unique, I actually think that would be cool. But that's not the convention that we've had so far with Super Saiyan 3. We've always seen it with the hair that runs long down the back. So it's just confusing.
Yeah, it's a bit confusing. Super Saiyan 3 is not like my favorite transformation anyway. And honestly, I'm glad the Broly movie gave him Super Saiyan Red, because that is Super Saiyan God is one of the best looking Super Saiyan forms on that man. So I'm glad he's not stuck in that form for very long.
Oh, for Vegeta you're talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not even a fan of Super Saiyan God, but Vegeta's character, the design and everything, that form was made for him.
But yeah, I think that wraps up the discussion of Super Saiyan 3 for me. And I kind of want to just dig into these 3 episodes that we just covered. And it's weird because I think the second half of this final episode, which was episode 17, is fun. We get great animation. We get everyone working together. We get some interesting moves. Gomah's finally making his play. There's a lot to like about it. Unfortunately, the other 2.5 episodes make me raise a lot of eyebrows and ask a lot of questions. And there's a lot of this, I guess, faux drama that's injected into Daima that doesn't really need to be there. And I'm honestly okay if you don't have an exciting episode, but you're going through the lore and exploring the world. And it's all right if you slow it down. You don't need to have drama in every episode. But for some reason, I think every episode of Daima needs to have either a fight or a dramatic moment or something happening in it. And sometimes it feels like it's a little bit too forced for my taste. And all the space police pressure feels like it shouldn't really be there. They should be just walking through them, and it shouldn't really be much of an issue.
Truly. Yeah. That is I don't buy the tension. It doesn't make sense with what we've seen up to this point in the show that the gendarmerie forces and their guns are any sort of threat for our heroes. Um so yeah, and like the gendarmerie special forces, the show would be better without them. They are not a worthwhile gag.
And the thing is we already had the gendarmerie, the demon police measuring stick. Goku already passed that a few episodes in. I
Right.
don't mind them being a threat early because Goku's got all these restrictions on him and he's learning and he hasn't accessed his full power. And so they were kind of a threat, and I liked that. But that was kind of the first measuring stick. And so we've beaten several, or at least encountered several much stronger opponents since then. They should be able to just breeze through them.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. And honestly, that would have been fun to watch.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Vegeta just whooping the crap out of a bunch of like gendarmerie, like stuck up demon police boys. Like that would have been a lot of fun to watch. But instead,
Yeah.
he gets shot with a laser and about dies.
He's crawling over for a revive bug that he didn't want to eat earlier.
Yeah, and I don't know. You don't need to give me an epic fight to the death battle every episode. Just give me something fun. And we could have had some fun episodes here. The tone should have been a lot different. And if you do that, if you make the tone what it should be, which is just fun, these would have been great episodes. But I don't know what they're doing. Like honestly, I don't know what they're doing with the tone of Daima. At first, I thought it was fun, and then they're trying to make everything serious, and then you have all these awkward situations that don't kind of make sense, and things feel out of place. And either way, I think we're past all the awkward stuff now, all the storytelling stuff that they've kind of fumbled on, and I think we're getting into just some beautiful visuals on the screen, which I'm more than happy to see.
So yeah, I totally agree. One of the things that I wanted to talk about briefly, and I mentioned it to you before we started recording, Dayton, is there was an interview that came out. I'm going to see if I can find the person's name who works with Toei Animation. But
Oh, I know what you're about to bring up, and I think we both know roughly probably where the timelines line up at.
yes. And so basically this person revealed that a couple of things. That one, that Daima, I don't think I mentioned this one to you, Dayton, but that Daima is basically Toei Animation and of course Akira Toriyama working on Daima. But it is their effort at correcting their mistakes with GT, or they basically used
No.
they
I think we even had somebody suggest that we compare Diamond to GT.
yeah. And I mean, when the first trailers came out for Daima and they showed Goku turning into a kid, people were like, "Oh, they're just doing GT." Like people were upset that it was basically going to be another GT. And it's funny because people are like, as Daima went on, people were like, "Oh, it's different. It's not like GT." And then the creators came out and said, "Oh yeah, we were basically using GT as an inspiration for Daima."
Oh, I mean, I get it. Like you got that chip on your shoulder. You're like, all right, we're gonna correct this wrong. We're gonna prove that we can do this journey. We can do it correctly. I understand it. Like that might be, I don't know. This mission might be more for them than it is for us, but that's interesting, huh? Yeah, I don't know. I might just have to binge GT just that way we can do a discussion.
Yeah. I've said it a few times, but I think it would be very interesting to watch and review GT after Daima and just kind of compare. But so that was one thing that they said in the interview. The other thing that I did mention to Dayton was that the production schedule for Daima was such that before the release of Daima, they were working on it for it's somewhere between 1 and 2 years. They gave them a wide berth, which I think by comparison, Dragon Ball Super before its release, they had only started working on development of it between like 3 to 5 months before they released it, and it shows. Um, so awesome. They gave themselves lots of lead time before the release of Daima. However, the interview expresses that they started animating the show before the story was finished. And it's starting to really show the further that we get into Daima.
Yeah, it's 'cause I think we've mentioned it. If I feel like we mentioned it on the podcast, if not, we've mentioned it like to each other before and after the cast. It seems like at around episode 7 or after episode 7, there's a fall off. And part of that is we were thinking that maybe it was just because, they just blew out their budget, there's a recovery time. I mean, it's possible that it's because they didn't have any additional material to work with, so they put all of their budget into the stuff that they had, and then right now they're rushing kind of the rest of it. Because this story does not feel super cohesive at this point, and we only have a few episodes left, and I don't think everything's coming together. I don't think we're fixing a lot of the loose ends that have been given to us at this point, or the lackluster stories such as Degasu, which I could be corrected, but I mean, there's definitely not enough time to answer all the questions and fix all the issues I have by the end of Daima. So the question I have now is, what are they going to fix by the time we get to the end of it?
Yes, and that's a great question. So we have 3 episodes of Daima left, which again, we're going to cover the next 3 in our next instant transmission podcast recording episode. So I'm hoping those 3 are fantastic. I'm hoping, even if it's just so much that those are just like phenomenal action sequences, very fun to like watch, visually entertaining, good fight choreography, and then we get some good falling action and some, I guess, resolution. Like you said, Dayton, I don't think they're going to be able to resolve and fix all of the things that all of the threads and story beats that have kind of come up in Daima up to this point. But I think they could still make a good presentation out of it. I do wonder, like you said, to me, the first 7 episodes of Daima are almost perfect to me. They're fantastic. I'm so curious if those first 7 episodes were basically what they had written as far as the story, like before they really got started with Daima, or I guess finished with Daima. I'm curious if maybe, I mean, we had the unfortunate, untimely passing of Akira Toriyama, the creator, last year in, I believe, at the end of February, early March. And it's possible that maybe Toriyama had only worked on certain parts of the show up to that point. It's possible, like you said, Dayton, that maybe the budget ran out or something, other strange thing like that. I mean, in addition to the fact that I'm sure they had to reorganize and figure things out after Akira Toriyama's passing and everything.
And I know those studios are also, they're run pretty hard. Like there's almost no downtime. It's once you're done with one project, you're on to the next project, and so there's really no wiggle room as far as how you can move time blocks around. And if you needed more time for the story to develop, like, well, we already blocked out the release schedule on TV or whatever. We already sold the rights to these release companies. Like, it's got to come out. So with the setbacks that they had, and I guess the way everything was lining up, they might have had to rush this thing out the door, and maybe they didn't have all the information when they needed it.
I have a feeling something like that happened, especially after seeing that interview with I did find the name. It's the producer for Daima. His name is Akio Ioku. And I mean, there are some things in Daima that I really, really like. I get that they were trying to maybe correct some wrongs with GT and whatnot. My thing about it is, and I think part of the reason why I get so like heated and passionate and sometimes negative about this, is that I deeply love Dragon Ball, and Dragon Ball Daima is supposed to be, it's a celebration of Dragon Ball, right? It's for their 40th anniversary. It's the last piece of Dragon Ball media that Akira Toriyama worked on. And so I really just I want it to be the best that it absolutely possibly can be. And it's fallen short in a lot of areas, which is unfortunate. But I'm hoping these last 3 episodes are going to be phenomenal, and then we'll have a super strong beginning, a super strong ending, and a bit of a weak middle. But I mean, that would be pretty good, I guess.
Yeah, I could take that. And I mean, at bare minimum, this is some of the most beautiful Dragon Ball I've ever laid eyes on, and some of the best animation I've seen. Full stop. So it's not like there's nothing to brag about or rant about in Daima. There's the animation is just so fantastic that I mean, there's so many fights that I know I'm going to go back and rewatch and really enjoy. It would have been nice if the story held together a little bit better, and they didn't stick 2 or 3 filler episodes in a 20 episode series. But I mean, if we come out at the end here and we get most of everything wrapped up and we get some beautiful animation, then I will say that I will be happy with Daima. But they need to kind of stick the landing at this point, because like you said, the middle is probably the weakest part of this show. The beginning's been fantastic, so why don't we just wrap things up, and we'll 2/3 of it will be good at that point.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the hope. So fingers crossed for that. As at least the end of this episode, it gives me high hopes, or the end of episode 17, because the animation looks good. I'm excited to see Super Saiyan 3 fight Gomah. I do want to, before we kind of like wrap up our episode here, what do you think is gonna happen moving forward here, Dayton? Because we've got Super Saiyan 3 showing up for Goku. He's gonna have a fight against Gomah. We even see some of that in like the teaser for the next episode. We've seen the bugs fall out of Goku's gi. We still haven't heard anything more about the fusion bugs yet. We've got a Rinsu. We've got all 3 Dragon Balls in one place. Like, do you have any thoughts about either what you think is going to happen or what you'd like to see happen?
So here are my thoughts. They've shown us the fusion bug, and we know the bugs work. So I think Goku and Vegeta are going to fuse with the fusion bugs. And then I think Ku and Do are also going to fuse, and they're going to fuse with the earrings that Supreme Kai has.
Ha!
And I say that because there's a weird scene earlier where like Supreme Kai leans forward to talk to somebody and his earrings glitter like they were trying to draw my attention to them. So I feel like they're going to be used. That is the basis of my theory. And we're going to have double fusions versus Gomah.
That's a good thought. I'll be honest, I had completely forgotten about the Patara earrings because, I mean, well, Shin has them, you're right. I did not visually catch that cue about the like glittering earrings, but I wouldn't be surprised to see Ku and Do fuse. I wasn't thinking that it was going to be the Patara earrings. I just thought it was going to be some sort of like weird boo biology sort of thing where they were just going to combine their goo bodies like Play-Doh and become some sort of supreme Dooku Star Wars creature or something.
Well, Ku and Do might split back apart once they take the earrings off, though, because of the weird boo biology that they use to split Goku and Vegeta apart. So who knows? That could be something that plays an effect later. I'm not going to go that far, but I think those two fuse, and I think Goku and Vegeta fuse.
That'll be interesting. I hope they do something with the bugs. I feel like they have to. They gave us that little seed at the very beginning of the show, and then they showed it specifically fall out of Goku's shirt. So I'm almost wondering if because it fell out of Goku's shirt that somebody else is going to use it, but I'm not not convinced that's the case. Sometimes they have like Goku will lose or forget the sensu beans, for instance, just to create an additional obstacle, and maybe that's kind of what they're doing here with the bugs. Yeah, I don't.
The bigger question I have is, what's going to happen with Glorio at this point?
Yeah.
Does he make a move at all? Is there a moment where Gomah's defeated and the orders given from Dr. Arinsu to finish off our low health friends, and he has to refuse that order? Like, I want to know what's going to happen with Glorio, and if there is any more story to that character, or is he just like, well, I spent enough time with them and they're good guys, so I'm not going to do it.
Yeah, it could be. I'll be curious if they go that route. My only issue with that would be if they do go that route, with Glorio basically being like, "Oh, I spent time with these guys and they're good guys," like, typical trope. I'm totally fine with them going with that route, but I don't feel like they really seeded them having like a close connection. If they do that, I wish that they would have had. Well, we'll see. I just wish that would be seeded a little bit more. Again, like, this show hasn't done a good job of like seeding these narrative threads throughout for us to follow as the audience.
Except for Hybis, who had the belt with the eyeball in it. He's the second best written character in Daima.
You're absolutely right. That the eye, I totally missed the eye. Like, I did not catch that with Hybis's belt. So, I mean, good job to the writers on that. Yeah, I like the eye. I like Hybis. I hope Hybis becomes the Supreme Demon King.
That'd be amazing. He has my vote. I'll vote for Hybis. It's change we can trust.
That's right. But I didn't have much more to say about these episodes. Did you have anything else you wanted to talk about?
No,
Dayton?
hurry up. Let's get us to the next batch, which is hopefully all going to be just amazing.
Hell yeah. That's going to be it for this episode of Instant Transmission, where we discuss everything Dragon Ball. This has been your host, Todd.
And Dayton.
Don't forget, we're on Patreon and Discord. If you want to shove a magical artifact in our hole, you can find us at patreon.com/ITDBpodcast. The Discord link will be in the episode description, but you can also find it and all of our other links at linktree/ITDBpodcast. That's linktr.ee/ITDBpodcast. Thank you all so much for your support. Be sure to join us next time as we go Super Saiyan 3 on Gomah's ass in our ongoing coverage of Dragon Ball Daima. Dende is saved and the Dragon Balls are collected in one place, but Gomah and the Third Eye are proving to be an insurmountable obstacle. Will Arinsu get her wish on the Dragon Balls? Will Super Saiyan 3 be enough to defeat Gomah? Or will the surprise fusion of Hybis and Piccolo save the day? Find out next time. And to all our fellow Dragon Ball fans, stay safe out there, and remember to keep rocking the dragon.
So what would you call that fusion? Would it be like high blow or something like that?
I am here for high blow.